So I remember when I made the decision that it was time for me to leave the organization, I spoke to the founder and former CEO. His name's Jeff Bowling. And I was like, will you help me look for another position? He said, sure, I can help you. But honestly, it's time that you strike out on your own. I think that you'd make a great CEO. Honestly, hadn't even given much thought to being a founder and started my own company. I thought I loved being number two. A lot of things that I'm very passionate about as far as like diversity, equity, and inclusion and ensuring that women rise and things of that nature drove me to make the final decision to go ahead and do this.
This is the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Each episode, we sit down with bold thinkers and industry trailblazers to uncover the strategies, stories, and sparks of inspiration that drive growth and transformation. Let's get started.
Welcome. Well, today, as you always know, you hear from me say, I get excited about the guests that we have on the show. So today we have DeLibra Wesley. So welcome to the show, DeLibra. I want to give a little background on you and how we met. We met when you were just about to join the ASA board. And I have to say, we hit it off immediately. So we have similar drive. I would like to share the story of how you started your company, because I think that is truly a powerful message and a message about mentorship. But a little background on DeLibra. She's an experienced executive with a history of award-winning leadership with a strong emphasis in operational strategy, DEI planning, compliance in travel tax and healthcare credentialing, talent acquisition of physicians, nurses, and all healthcare specialties, as well as business developers, account managers, recruiters, and sales leaders. You've been doing this for quite some time, not to mention you're a killer host on the Family Feud show that you pulled together at Staffing World this past year. So welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a little tickled that you brought up Family Feud. That was so fun. That was a highlight for sure.
That was It was. And there's so much for us to kind of talk about. And maybe if you can share a little bit about how you started your company, because I do think that that's such an incredible story, just about, great drive, but also the power of mentorship and having the right people in your life that kind of helped push you along.
Yeah, sure. So I started National Recruiting Consultants. Like you mentioned, my background was heavily in the healthcare sector, but we decided to start National Recruiting Consultants and focus on special education staffing. So we staff special education K through 12 for school districts throughout the country. So the way this all came about was I started my career in staffing at the Delta companies, and I was working as a recruiter for the nurse staffing division. And over the years, I worked in different parts of the company, and I moved up to from the recruiter seat to the COO. So I was in the C-suite there. And in the year 2021 was very pivotal for me for personal reasons and professionally. That is when I decided to leave the Delta companies and to branch out and start National Recruiting Consultants. I always talk about this because I remember when I made the decision that it was time for me to leave the organization. I spoke to the founder and former CEO. His name's Jeff Bowling, and you bring up mentorship. I would say over the years, he's definitely been a mentor for me. He is an ally, and he's also at this point in my career definitely a sponsor. And so, as I was speaking to him, we went to dinner, and I was like, "Will you help me look for another position? I really enjoy the operational side of things. I like being a COO." He said, "Sure, I can help you. I can take a stab at looking around for you, but honestly, it's time that you strike out on your own. I think that you'd make a great CEO." And I just thought about I honestly hadn't even given much thought to being a founder and starting my own company. I thought I loved being number 2. I loved being the person that, looks at the CEO and then helps them come up with, the strategy, the initiatives around whatever their big thoughts and ideas may be. I loved process. I loved digging into all the new technology in our industry and figuring out what would work for the organization. But I really did think about it long and hard. A lot of things that I'm very passionate about as far as like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and ensuring that women rise and things of that nature, drove me to make the final decision to go ahead and do this. But he told me in that at that dinner that if you could just take a little time and think about something that you would be passionate about staffing. If you're passionate about it, I'm behind you. I'll support you. I'll do whatever it is because I know you. I know you'll work hard. Go figure out what you would have passion for and do it. And so, with me and a couple of colleagues and close friends, we started this company, and we were 3 moms, and we decided education was something that we all have been impacted by in public education for our kiddos. And we decided that special education would be a good mix of our skill sets and something that we could be passionate about. So, with 3 moms and several years of staffing experience, we branched out on our own and started National Recruiting Consultants in 2021. Yep.
That is fantastic. So I have to ask the question, I mean, you started the company in not the easiest of times. Not that it's ever easy, right, to
But in
start
the
a
middle of the
company, but
pandemic.
in the middle of the pandemic, and now here we are, in 2024, wrapping up 2024, and there's been definitely challenges economically, politically. I mean, all sorts of issues that have kind of impacted growth of organizations over the last 2, 3 years. So what are you seeing, and how do you manage driving growth in an organization through some of these volatile times?
So what we're seeing in education is so when I look at it from a staffing industry perspective, um, my gut told me that we would be a bit insulated and education would be a good sector to go into. And that has been the case. We've grown year over year. Um, this year has been tougher, but it's like you said, a lot of what happened for us this year, a lot of funding and things of that nature are tied up in politics. So that has been a bit of more of a challenge for us as far as our growth plan and the things that we wanted to accomplish this year. It's been a little tougher with, politics and that's the arena we're in right now, the climate. And so a couple of things that I really lean on. Um, I show my employees the external industry numbers for staffing industry analysts. I make sure that they know that even though the world and the economy and things around us are maybe a little more uncertain, that they are able to see that the industry that they're in is solid and that it's our little piece of the pie is $2.2 billion. We just need to go keep growing our little piece of NRC within that niche. And that's helpful. It kind of gives everybody a little bit of a sigh of relief that the industry is strong. The other thing is I have learned a lot this year about what a CEO is and what a CEO isn't. For me, it's been really important to maybe turn my mom hat off a little bit because my initial reaction to things is I want to protect everybody, and so I have learned a lot this year in regards to not shielding them so much. Everyone, we're all adults. If there's something that's an issue or we're struggling in an area, being really honest because, not to say that I was dishonest, but if you don't give the full truth or omit part of the truth, people fill in the blanks with things that are usually way worse than the truth is. And so I've learned that lesson. It's like things that you know, but you think, "Oh, I don't want to stress everybody out. I'll handle this. We got it." But it's so important to make sure that you rely on the team and that we are a team and everyone knows where we stand and what we're working towards together, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I think those things, and I would say the other piece to it is I am fanatic about game filming. So anytime an issue goes awry, let's say we put a lot into a client and we don't win the bid, or whatever an issue may be, we spend the time, although it may feel to some like it's a waste of time, you should just move on and try to pick up the next. We do spend a lot of time game filming, figuring out where we can tweak our process, make things better, so that in hopes that the next term around that things will improve. So I think those three things are really what have been kind of the pillars for me during a more economic tough time. And I think that my employees appreciate it because we are transparent and all on a team together. And I told them something last week. I was like, I probably, most people would say don't share this much, but I'm going to trust you all. I'm going to tell you this because I think it's important that you all trust me too. So I don't want it to ever feel like this company is out for the company and not the people in it, because the most important thing, in my opinion, are my employees. And I know that if I'm taking care of my employees, they're going to take care of our contractors, they're going to take care of our school districts that we work with. But my number one focus has to be that the people that work for NRC are okay.
And I have to say, I want to unpack that a little bit, everything you said there, because I think you have so many great messages. I used to have a CEO that I worked for that I love the expression that he would use. He would say, what's good for the company is good for the people. What's good for the people is good for the company. It should be. And if there's ever a break in that process, then we're doing something
Mhm.
wrong and we need to hit the pause button and go back at it, which is exactly what you just said. The other thing was the transparency and not shielding them. And I think that kind of feeds into the culture, which is going to be the second part that I want to get into, which a lot of times I think companies feel that they have to shield their employees, thinking that they're doing the right thing by doing that. But I agree with you. I think what you conjure up when you don't know usually winds up being way worse than what's actually
I
happening.
love that, conjure up, because that is exactly what happens. It ends up being, so when you leave blanks, people are gonna fill them in, right? So, um, I am learning that I have to do, even when I think that I've explained it, even when I think there communication is everything. And so, and I've decided to not be fearful of it, because a part of you feels like, oh, if I share this, I don't want them to stress out and think that we're not okay and they go look for another job, or I don't want them to think that I don't trust that we can hit these numbers. And I don't think so. I have to get out of my own way with that. And I think, also I would say my mom had, I think I'm even learning that as a mom, that at a certain point you have to be honest, especially and it's not about being honest or dishonest, that's not the right word, but it's about the transparency behind things, being more transparent.
I agree, and you're right. We experience this with our kids for sure. How much how much we tell them the reality of the situation versus pretending everything is okay. Let's talk a little bit about culture. And this is an important topic to both you and I, and company culture. So a lot of what you described, I really think it's the building of NRC's company culture, right? The transparency, you're able to tell them exactly what's going on. They understand the market and the trend. I do believe that company culture translates to the conversion of business, because as people are more and more in the trenches and integrated into the fabric of the company, they wind up performing better, which leads to more, activity leads to productivity, which leads to results, right? And naturally happens. And then there's also the component of culture when we talk about the DEI aspect. So I'd like to ask you on both counts, what are your thoughts, and how do you instill the culture within your company?
So I think I tried to figure out I tried to figure out what is our culture? What are we? Who are we? And the best advice I was given was actually again from Jeff. I had a strategy meeting with him. It was sometime last year, and he was like, I never tried to figure out what my company's culture was. I let everyone else tell me. So I went down the path of letting the employees take the reins on some of the things that are what you would traditionally consider like a fun culture. So I am pretty obsessed with us being close and being a team. Yeah, I would say obsessed. And it's because we're virtual and we don't really see each other more than twice a year in person, like the whole team. I did, get the leadership team together a little bit more frequently than that. But for the most part, we are remote. So our culture is something that probably stresses a lot of people out. But it doesn't bother me as much because I think it's working. And it is, we have meetings. And I know people are like, "Oh, this meeting could have been an email," and then we do recalibrate and we look at that and go, "Okay, is this a waste of time? Is this a good use of time?" But both of the recruiting team and the account management teams, they meet up every morning, 30 minutes, team chat, what's on the agenda today. But that does so much. First off, we're all remote. It makes sure that we all show up to the office, right? And we have our coffee, we're ready to go, we're chatting through the plan for the day. They all have a one-on-one with their direct leader every week, and we have team trainings, call clinics, so many of the things that you would do in an office, we have tried to re-engineer them so you still can do those virtually. You're not left alone at your desk in your office at home by yourself all day. We also use, Teams, the chat function in Teams quite a bit, have lots of different channels. And then, I would say the thing that the team came up with that has been like a huge hit is we have a monthly virtual happy hour. Although we say it is optional, I'm telling you, everyone breaks their necks to attend because we do trivia games. We vote on a core value of the month and which person uh, displayed this value the most, and we make a big deal about all that. And now we're getting ready for our annual holiday virtual party. And we do things like we submit photos of the best Christmas tree. So we don't know whose tree it is, and we pick a winner, and we wear ugly sweaters, and we have a secret Santa gift exchange. So we're shipping gifts off to each other's houses, and you don't know when you open your gifts in front of everybody on the team, like those things are just like simple little things. And you know what? I didn't come up with them. My employees did. I just left that culture piece, that fun piece to them. The other parts that we discussed earlier, I think those are more on me, but I can see and I can look back, and if I deliver a message and there's a lot of questions or people are upset or don't quite understand, then I know the other piece that I have to work on is being more transparent and clear. So for me, it is a lot of fun, but it also is a lot of face to face because we're not face to face. And so we insist on the cameras are on in our meetings. Let's look at each other. Let's check in with one another. And if now if you're not feeling well or you're not feeling it today and you say, "Hey, I'm not, I'm maybe operating at 30%, I need to leave my camera off." Or like if I eat a salad, I'm not going to make everybody watch me eat a salad, right? But for the most part, cameras are on. And so, I think those things are always important, and I do say I'm obsessed. I'm a bit fanatic about it because we're not in an office setting together. The other piece is, diversity, equity, and inclusion means so much to me personally. I think that it's like my personal mission in charge. So I do things to infuse that within our organization for sure. But just the very bones and the fabric of it, 3 moms, that's who started this company. And so I will tell you the biggest reward that I've given, I would say my best paycheck to date is the fact that I have moms who have been out of recruiting for years, taking care of families, raising kiddos, stepped back in, and we hired them on at NRC, because they've had, like, crazy resume gaps because you were a mom for 8 years, still a mom, but we've been able to convince them, "Hey, come back and do it with us." I was the first 2 years, I was screening candidates in the carpool line, and happy to do so because before NRC, I wasn't able to even be in a carpool line. I was in an office working until 6 o'clock. I had somebody else picking my kid up, and now I get to pick him up every day. That never so I have 2 children. My oldest son, I never was able to do that for him. And my youngest, he gets to see me every day after school. And so what I typically would do, and this is what I tell moms when we interview them, like, this is what I would do. I would set up a call and I would screen a candidate, start the screen on my way to pick up my son, make sure I get in line before school lets out, finish up the call. By the time my son gets in the car, I'm done with my screen. I may jot down a few notes, but I'm able to talk to him, "Hey, how was your day?" He doesn't know that in between, and this is the thing that's been really great about moms, in my opinion. We have the mental load and weight of so much of usually everyone in our households, right? We know all the scheduling, the appointments, the doctor's appointments, the soccer practice, we know all of that. And I do think that that is what makes us so great in staffing, is that we're able to pull all these puzzles together. So when I interview a candidate to work internally within RC, we talk about that and what it would look like in your family structure, and you just have to be able to integrate it. There are nights that I get back here, and I help my son get settled into um, whatever he has going on, homework, whatever snack wise, and then I'm right back on the phone. I've got to finish up things. But I'm also lucky he's almost 13, so he isn't like he needs me to be right there by him. But when we first started this in 2021, it was a lot more of making sure he's set up and he's able to get his snack and his homework going and then get back to it. But this is a part of diversity. And this is why I say this is my best paycheck, because I now have women, mainly moms, that are coming to me saying, "Hey, we were existing on my husband's income. Now, because of NRC, we're able to do this for our kids. We're able to do this." And that is the best feeling. And I think that it's really cool because we're able to go find talent that already exists, people that already know how to sell, and we just get them back into the marketplace. I don't It's just worked out really well a few times now. I have, like, some of my top account manager and my maybe number 1 or 2, it's very close, recruiter.
That's fantastic. And that's where you taking a chance on people. And you know what? I think it's such a great message for everybody who's going to be listening to our podcast. Take that chance, take that risk, because what happens is the person on the receiving end is going to work extra hard to be able to illustrate that you made the right choice in picking me and having me.
When I tell you loyalty through the roof and gratitude through the roof, yes, but I mean, it's I've gotten to the point, and I think the pandemic helped me get there because a lot of people have gaps in their resume because they had to take time off during the pandemic, or anytime you have a caregiving situation. I've gotten to where I don't exclude I'll look at a resume. If there's a gap in the interview, we may talk about it, like, "Tell me what was going on during this time." but it's not I'm not talking to this person. They have a 2-year work history gap. I've gotten far away from that. Also, you know this personally, Anna, but in 2021, my brother lost his battle to oral cancer. And if it weren't for the fact that I had started NRC and I was able to take my laptop into the chemo wards and do all of the caregiving things that he needed, I wouldn't have been able to be there the way I was for my brother. So it all worked out, and I don't know. It was in a great way. I mean, I hate that we lost him, but to be able to have that time with him at the end is precious. And had it not been for NRC, I would not have been able to be as involved in his caregiving as I was able to be.
Right. And you know what? That is so special. And that's what it kind of concerns me a little bit that companies, some of the larger companies are kind of pushing to have, 5 days a week in the office, going back to like the 2019 model of work. And I feel the pandemic, in a bizarre kind of way, taught us a valuable lesson that you can be remote and you can also juggle more by being remote. And I think you actually work harder because you have less distractions by being remote. And I feel like we're losing that again, right? Because companies want to push in the direction of going back into the office.
I think many of us haven't figured out how to make it work virtually, and we're seeing um, a lack of stickiness from trainings because we're trying to do it all virtually and through LMSs, and maybe people aren't getting it. So we just have a knee jerk reaction that let's get back in the office. And yeah, I think you're right. We're seeing that shift happen. I think a lot. I think the day of the employee saying, okay, I only want to work virtual or I want a hybrid, it's turning on its head. And we're going to have more of the employers setting the tone. It's flipping back the other way. And the employers are saying, you got to be in the office. And I get it. You got to do what you got to do. But I'll just put the message out here, NRC, we're remote. I don't foresee that changing. I don't think I don't have in my 5-year plan that there's going to be a brick and mortar for NRC. We we've been able to figure things out in this format, and it works for us. And so hopefully you just got to get creative, and that's why I say I obsess about it because I get it. There are times when I'm like, I just feel like if I had have had this person sitting right next to me, I would have been able to help them figure this out. But what can I do if that's not the case?
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So DeLibra, now it kind of brings me to asking, this is probably one of the hardest questions to talk about, like, achieving that balance, that personal bliss, between family, health, well-being, your work. And I know we're all bad examples of that, not balancing it out correctly, but any advice that you can kind of give to how to better do that?
So one thing that I am a goal setter and a planner. I love planning. So it's like hitting my favorite season right now, like between Thanksgiving and after the little bit after the New Year's, I usually work on goal setting, vision boards, planning. And so one of the things that I do is I buy one of those big calendars that's for the whole year. And so now I'm engaged. So the last year, my fiance and I, it was the first year we did it together, which I think we worked because he's a bit like me in this way. He likes planning things out. I remember our first date and he put it in his calendar. He screenshot that the date was in his calendar. I was like, what? What guy does this? So we calendar everything. It's been wonderful. So I'll get that calendar. And what I will do is I always say, family is first. So if my family is supposed to come before my work, I don't worry about time necessarily in that way, but because I can't necessarily dedicate more time spent than makes sense for the business, right? So, but what I try to do is I plan out intentional time. So I'll look through what we have going on for the year and I will plan out, even if I don't know where we're going, I'll say, this is when we're going on vacation. And I'll say, this is when we're doing this. And these are intentional times that I will disengage and I will be there for my family. And then I'll put family down first. And then I'll move to what do I need to do with work and plot work around family. I personally believe as long as I focus in that order, then everything will work out. Life will work itself out. And so I'm a big planner. And the whole, we've heard a few times here lately that balance is kind of a joke and balance is BS. That's what at Thrive, I love that. And I believe that it's not really, you can't really balance it, but I think that you have to show up. And my kid is good at saying, "Okay, mom, no devices." That means I want your undivided attention. I'm like, "You're right, no devices." And so you have to have no device time. You have to have vacation time. You have to have significant other time. We even planned out our date nights, and everything is just on the calendar. Doesn't mean we know where we're going, what we're doing, or anything, but we know that day we have a date night planned. And so, but it was really fun. Actually, we flip flopped each month. We're like, you have one night, and then I have. So we went back and forth, so we could plan dates for each other. But I think being intentional about balance or harmony or whatever it is really important. Um, for me, it's been super helpful because I've been a single mom like forever. So it's also kind of hard sometimes for me to relinquish and let go. But it's been great to have Colin because he's very present and he helps me out. He takes on half of the workload. He does all of the cooking, like around the house, the workload. So he does all of the cooking and all the meal planning. He loves to cook. And so I never feel like everything is on me. And so that's been a great lift off of my shoulders, especially as I continue to try to grow in RC. The other piece is the part that I always struggle with is my own personal wellness. And I've done a lot better this year. But the thing for me is we all have to exercise. I know it. I just don't enjoy it. So I joined Club Pilates with the reformer. And so that's been great because I can make myself schedule 4 sessions a week, show up and let someone yell at me for the 4 sessions a week, and I get my workout done. And I actually, if there's any kind of exercising I do enjoy, it has been the reformer. So, but yeah, you just have to figure it out
I know.
and be intentional.
Yeah, and you're right. Be intentional. First of all, I love the fact that you said you have somebody yell at you and you get your workout. And my husband always gets a kick out of, why do I respond to having a trainer or one of these like teachers like yell at you and you actually do it? I said, there's something about it. It just
Something about it.
you know what? I'm not going to argue. I'm just going to listen to what this person is telling me to do.
And it's 1 hour, and it's gotten to the point where it's like the hour of my day where I'm not telling someone what to do. And it actually has become such a mental relief because I can just go in there and do whatever they tell me to do. And then usually it's so intense that I can't think of everything else. I'm just thinking about that. And then when I walk out, I'm like, I'm less stressed.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
does work.
it does work. I agree. DeLibra, one thing I did want to ask you is, what about the women of color staffing that you started?
I'm so glad you brought that up because I know we've been discussing diversity, equity, and inclusion. And a big piece of that for me has been my passion project, which is the community that I started involving women of color in staffing. The purpose of that community is to give women of color a place to network, to seek mentorship, to seek further education and staffing. And my passion and purpose behind that is I am trying to ensure that we continue to find ways to keep women of color in this industry, which I love and I find amazing. And, statistics show that women of color tend to be the biggest detractors. So through this community, I'm hoping to help people network, find allies, find mentors that can help them navigate the issues that they foresee or that they see in their organizations. So women of color and staffing is a huge, huge part of my weekly life. I work on it every week, and a big part of what I see being part of the legacy I hope to leave behind in the staffing industry.
And I hope everybody goes out there and joins, because you have great sessions. And
Yeah.
yeah,
We are getting ready to do a goal setting session here coming up. But if anyone, you can look us up on LinkedIn, Women of Color in Staffing, and get all of our upcoming content. You can join free, and I'll share the link with you, and maybe we can get it out. But yeah, you could join free. We're getting ready to do goal setting in December, and we have a lot of wonderful things lined up for the next year that's free content. So, and welcome to everyone, not just women of color, but everyone.
excellent. Thank you. Okay, unfortunately, we kind of we need to wrap things up, but I have a fun little section here that I want to do, and I'm going to do some rapid fire questions that you're going to answer, not to put you on the spot. It's a little bit like how Colbert does his interviews when he asks fun questions at the end of an interview for his guests. Okay, so what is the most unusual item on your desk right now?
I don't really have unusual things on my desk, but I have a lot of moisturizers
Okay.
for my lips, my hands, my skin. I don't know. I don't like dry skin. So lots of moisture. I have 5 different ones sitting on my desk.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that's great. That's definitely different. I haven't heard that one yet. What's your guilty pleasure song that you never want anyone to hear during a sales call?
Not during a sales call, but it's also my karaoke song. It's Borderline by
Oh
Madonna.
my God, really? That is awesome.
Song.
Okay, we're gonna have to have a karaoke night. Um, who plays you in a movie?
My first mind is always, whenever I've ever thought of something like this, would be Oprah Winfrey, but I don't think that's it. I think it's Taraji P. Henson. And I think she's a great actress.
Oh,
But there's a couple things about her that I just have recently uh, garnered a lot of respect for. And one of them is pay equity. She says she's famous for saying the math ain't mathing, because she is really focused on women getting pay equity in her industry. And the other thing is that she is a big champion for mental health awareness, and it's especially for the African American culture, because there's still quite a bit of stigma around getting counseling and therapy services in the Black community. But I would say Taraji P.
oh my God, I love that. That's a great one. Okay, if you were a superhero, what would your sales-related superpower be? And it can't be reading minds.
I know I never think of myself as having a superpower, and especially sales related. So I would tell you that one thing that I always wished I could do is never sleep.
Huh?
I think I could figure out so many things if I never had to sleep and I got those hours back. It just didn't need sleep. I would have a very organized, well executed desk, because at night I would get everything laid out so that I could just be super efficient during the day, never sleep.
That's it. Never sleep. That's a good one. Okay. What's one word your colleagues would use to describe you on a Monday morning?
It's not excited to be there. It's not sad to be there. I think of Mondays as my transparency day, so maybe transparent.
Transparent. Okay, that's great. Listen, DeLibra, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I appreciate being here. This was great. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Don't forget to subscribe and share. In our next episode, we talk to Lenore Convery about the critical connection between sales and marketing. See you then.